In the winter, my garage is uninsulated and, well, it's uninsulated year-round, but in the winter it gets freezing in here. Now I can run a space heater, which helps, but the entire garage is only fed by a 15 amp breaker. This means if the heater is on, I can't really run any other tools or else the breaker will trip. Obviously, the ideal solution would be to run an additional circuit, but I can't do that because I'm only renting the place. Plan B could be to light wood on fire in an enclosed metal chamber, but that would require installing a chimney, which I also can't do. Plan C is I could just light the entire garage on fire and then I'd never have to worry about heating it again. But just in the nick of time, a fourth option appeared. All Powers offered to send me their new portable power station for review, so I was like, awesome, I guess I won't have to resort to Plan C. But this won't be your ordinary type of review, as I am unfortunately an engineer. This model is called the S2000 Pro, and it has a 1.45 kilowatt hour capacity, a peak power output of 4 kilowatts, and a continuous power output of 2.4 kilowatts. This should solve my cold garage problem because I can run a space heater off the 15 amp breaker that feeds the outlets in the garage, and then use the power station to run my tools. Most of the tools don't draw that much power continuously, so the power station should last a long time, but they do draw a lot of power on startup. Take this circular saw for example. It runs fine on a 15 amp breaker, so clearly it doesn't need more than 15 amps of current continuously, but let's test that. I've got it plugged into this special extension cord I made which has the wires exposed, which allows me to hook my clamp meter around just one of the wires to take a current measurement. When running, it draws around 9 amps. When cutting wood, the current increases a bit, but still remains well below 15 amps. However, the real challenge is the initial startup current. I can measure that with the multimeter by setting it to max mode, and it will save the peak current measurement, but I think we can do better. This thing is called a current transformer, and it outputs a signal proportional to the current flowing through it. This particular one produces 1 volt per 30 amps. I've got it hooked up to an oscilloscope, so we'll see exactly how much current the tool draws during startup. So we got our waveform. It seems to peak at about 3 volts, and since the current sensor produces 1 volt per 30 amps, that means the current peaked at 90 amps. But luckily it's pretty short-lived, dropping down to a more reasonable level after just a few cycles. Let's see what happens if we try running this saw from the power station now. I've got it hooked up to my special extension cord still, and I'll go ahead and turn on the saw. So this time the current waveform looks completely different from when I ran it on the grid power. It seems to be limiting the current to around 60 amps. Luckily, 60 amps is still enough to get the saw spinning, although it does take a few more cycles compared to when it was running on grid power, but we're talking a difference of tens of milliseconds. Once it gets up to speed, the current waveform looks exactly like it did running on grid power, and the saw works perfectly fine. Now, the circular saw works for a lot of things, but what if you need to cut a table? You would of course need a table saw. First, let's run it on grid power. So the current sensor produced a peak voltage of around 2.5 to 3 volts, which works out to about 80 amps. Except this time it didn't drop down after a few cycles, it maintained the high current for over a second. This still wasn't enough to trip the breaker, as evidenced by the fact that your screen doesn't currently look like this, but it could be a challenge for the power station. Remember, the power station claims to have a peak power output of 4 kilowatts, so this is well beyond that, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to try. So it wasn't able to get the saw running, it just sat there buzzing for exactly 2 seconds before shutting down. And you can see that just as it did for the circular saw, it limited the current to 60 amps. But unlike the circular saw, 60 amps wasn't enough to get the saw up to speed. In fact, it wasn't even enough to make it start spinning. So it looks like I can't run the table saw, but that's okay, let's test some other things. This is my lathe. It's probably my favorite thing I own, but can the power station run it? Ah, so close. I could tell it almost had it. Let's try again with the belt tension removed. There we go. Once it gets past the initial startup, there's no issue, and the power drops down to the 300 watt range. Cutting steel isn't a problem either. The power still stays below 700 watts, so I should be able to get at least 2 hours of continuous use from the power station. My horizontal bandsaw starts up just fine too, and I can cut through some steel tubing with the power staying around 400 watts, so I should be able to run it for at least 3 hours. Somehow now it's summer, which means I'm required to prevent the grass in the front of my house from exceeding the legally mandated length, otherwise society will collapse. Apparently. My house has this little annoying strip of grass that's too steep to do with the riding mower, so I found this corded push mower for $20 on Facebook Marketplace. The power station has no problems running this lawnmower, and it seems to draw about 500 watts, so I'll get nearly 3 hours of mowing using the power station. Here's a rototiller, which the power station also has no problems running. This was actually the first thing I used the power station for, because my garden is too far away from the house to use an extension cord, and gas or battery powered rototillers are really expensive. But this corded one was really cheap, and it works good enough. It draws about 1,000 watts, so I can probably rototill for a little under an hour and a half, which is more than enough for the size of the garden. Now let's talk about recharging the unit. It can be plugged into a normal outlet and recharge in about an hour, but one thing I found a little annoying is that there's no way to adjust the charging current. You plug it in and it just takes off and starts drawing 1500 watts. This means it charges really quickly, but the downside is if you try to run anything else off the same breaker, it will likely trip. There is an app, which was pretty easy to connect, but it mostly just lets you monitor the power station. It doesn't let you limit the charging current or anything. But I did actually figure out one way to limit the charging current, although it's a bit of a hack. This connector on the front is meant for a solar panel, but there's nothing stopping me from just hooking up a power supply. I've got one of my lab power supplies connected, and if I set it to 30 volts and set the current limit to 10 amps, you can see how the power station slowly ramps up until it reaches the limits of the power supply. I've got a Raspberry Pi here with an analog to digital converter PCB I designed on top, which lets me connect this current sensor. Then from my laptop, I can remotely access the Raspberry Pi using SSH and run a Python script I wrote to log the current from the sensor. You can see right now it's drawing 10 amps, and I'll just let this run until it reaches 100%. It's now been a few hours and the power station is fully charged. I imported the data log from the Raspberry Pi into Google Sheets and plotted it, which shows that the total charge delivered was around 55 amp hours, and since the voltage was around 29 or 30 volts, that works out to about 1.6 kilowatt hours. That matches the rated capacity of 1.45 kilowatt hours pretty closely, so they're definitely not lying about the capacity. When it comes to surviving long power outages, you might think that the bigger your battery is the better, but that's not necessarily the case if you have access to something called the sun. The power station can be charged from solar panels thanks to the giant nuclear reactor we have in the sky. This is a 400 watt folding solar panel. When I got it, I thought, okay, 400 watts, that's probably what you'll get if you live somewhere that looks like this, but that's actually not the case. Even where I am in southern Ontario, filming this in the month of May, I'm already getting over 320 watts of solar power, and that would be even higher in the summer. I'd say that's not bad, and that'll fully charge the power station in 4.5 hours, meaning you could realistically fully charge it in one day. Let's try some more tools. This corded jigsaw works just fine. It draws around 400 watts, so it should last about 3.5 hours of non-stop jigsawing. I worked out that I can cut plywood at about 1 inch per second, so I'd be able to cut around 320 meters before fully draining the power station. But I don't have an extension cord long enough to test that.
It almost unplugged the jigsaw.
Now back to the present in my cold workshop. Here's a bench grinder. The power station has no issues starting it up. When it's just sitting here idling, it draws about 60 watts, and if I jam a block of steel against it, the power goes up to around 200 watts, so the power station should last about 7 hours of non-stop grinding. Now a different grinder, of the angle variety, this also works fine when running off the power station, and it seems to draw around 800 watts, so it should last about 2 hours. My garage microwave can also run off the power station if I ever need to warm up a nice cup of fluorescent light bulbs. This microwave draws about 1500 watts, so I'd be able to run it for an hour, which is enough time to cook 12 microwavable meals. Here's a heat gun. It draws about 1200 watts, which would last about an hour and 15 minutes, or enough time to make 12 heat gunnable meals. Just don't leave it unattended, or you might end up going with Plan C after all. This small drill press is also no problem, even when I'm drilling through steel and pulling down on the lever pretty hard. It draws about 270 watts, meaning I should be able to drill holes for about 5 hours. It's not able to start up my big air compressor. The motor just has too much startup load. However, this smaller air compressor is no problem. It draws about 200 watts, so it could run for a whopping 7 hours, although given how loud it is, you might wish the power station couldn't run it. I swear the size of an air compressor seems to have an inverse relationship to how loud it is. I thought it might have a harder time starting up if there was already some pressure in the tank, so I let some air out, but it had zero problems turning back on with the tank pressure at 80 psi. The power station can also run my disc sander for about 8 hours, my other little drill press for 11 hours, my scroll saw for 40 hours, and my miter saw for about 1 hour. Let's try the shop vac now. The label says 5.5 peak horsepower. That's nearly 4 kilowatts. I have no idea under what circumstances the shop vac would draw 4 kilowatts. You might think if you clog it or something, it's going to draw a lot more power. Wrong. It actually draws less power when it's clogged because it's not doing any work. So where are they getting this number? I have no idea. But let's see if the power station can run it. So it's drawing about 1,140 watts. Now watch what happens if I block the hose. Only like 960 watts. so the power station should last a little over an hour. Obviously, I can use this to recharge power tool batteries too. My smaller DeWalt batteries have about 26 watt-hours of capacity, so I could probably charge them 50 times from the power station. My larger 4 amp hour batteries can be charged around 18 times. You might be wondering why I don't have more battery-powered tools. For some reason, DeWalt still hasn't come out with a battery-powered lathe, so I'm still stuck plugging mine into the wall socket. For things that do have battery-powered options, it's still way cheaper to get a 40-year-old corded angle grinder from a garage sale than a battery-powered one. Plus, you have to get new batteries every few years, and live in constant fear of what would happen if the manufacturer ever stopped making them. All Powers has a bunch of different power stations for sale, as well as various sizes of solar panels. Links to that are in the description. Thanks for watching!